Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Good Friday. We will continue our series on the 5 hindrances that the Buddha outlines that we all become very aware of when we begin to meditate. That these 5 hindrances are forces in the untrained mind that are strong, prevalent, active. They are the first hindrance, sense desire; the second hindrance, ill will, aversion; the third hindrance, dullness and drowsiness; and the fourth hindrance, restlessness and remorse; and the fifth hindrance, skeptical doubt. And I think uncertainty is also a very, very good translation for the fifth hindrance. And we will continue looking at the first hindrance today, sense desire. This is the force in the mind that is compelling us and driving us to be actively pursuing experiences through the senses, experiences through the body. And I will begin this morning by looking at 2 similes that the Buddha has given us, such a powerful teaching tool about this hindrance, and then to try and unpack it more and give us ways to be reflecting on it and examining it in our own lives, in our own experience. And then the last half of the reflection today, we'll talk about practical ways to work with this hindrance when it's arising in meditation. So the first simile that the Buddha gives us, well, the first one I'm going to look at today, it's in the Samyutta Nikaya 46, Sutta 55, and it's a conversation that the Buddha is having with a Brahmin who asks the Buddha, why is it that at times I can't recall things that I've learned, and I can't recall things that I've memorized, and then at other times I can recall things that I haven't even spent much effort in memorizing. Why do I have these different experiences? And the Buddha points to either the presence of the hindrance, which is getting in the gears of our thinking and clogging it up, or the absence of the hindrance, in which case there's just this flow. And I think we can all relate to that. And the simile that the Buddha gives for sense desire in this exchange with this Brahmin is he's describing the mind being like water, and then sense desire, this hindrance, being like dye in the water. And a modern day way to really be able to relate to this is probably most of us have seen water with gasoline on the top of it. And it actually is, in a perverted way, it's quite beautiful and mesmerizing, all these shimmering colors. This is what the Buddha is referring to. And this isn't the one I wanted to start with. So we're just going to stop there and go to the other simile. I want to start with it first. So sorry about that. The simile I do want to start with is where the Buddha is comparing, he's giving us a simile for sense desire that really fleshes out how it feels. This particular hindrance, we need to be really honest with ourselves and do some investigating in our lives, because we tend to think, we don't tend to immediately experience desire as problematic. We actually think it's kind of a natural, necessary part of life. Like, how would I function without desire? How would I get anything done? So this particular simile, if we take it on board and look at our lives and look at times when desire is really, activated, this could really help. And the simile that the Buddha gives is that when there's a lot of sense desire in the heart and in the mind, it's very much like being in debt. So what the Buddha is pointing to is that as soon as there's a desire in the mind, there's a sense of lack. There's a sense of insufficiency, inadequacy, lack of abundance. We're reaching out to get this thing to somehow fulfill us, somehow complete us. And we're going into debt. We then have the suffering and the stress of debt. Very interestingly, the word holy in Old English, that was the spelling of whole. So this idea of holy, the holy person, is the opposite of this simile of sense desire with this feeling of being in debt and this feeling of lack. The holy person is complete, has a sense of abundance, a sense of fullness. This is very, very holy. It's the opposite of being in debt. And that's the thing I think that the Buddha is inviting us to look at. What does it actually feel like in the mind, in the body, when there's some pretty strong desire happening? There's definitely this sense of like need, want, longing, insufficiency, lack. And the Buddha is proposing that it's like being in debt. There's this, there's this heavy burden that we take on. So if I segue back to the second simile, this one of the dye in the water, the shimmering gasoline mirage that gets formed when the water's not pure and has gasoline on the surface. This is the second simile that the Buddha gives us, and this really is how another way that desire is problematic, in that it distorts. Water has the mind, when it's pure, has the capacity for a lot of clarity and a lot of accurate reflecting of what's present. And when there's desire, there's this dye in the water, and the clarity of the pure mind is compromised and becomes distorted, and then we don't see things clearly. So the antidote for desire, the antidote is contentment. It both addresses this going into debt, this like reaching outside of ourselves for some kind of fulfillment, some kind of completion. When we feel very content, this force in the mind is the opposite of sense desire. Contentment is the antidote, it's the opposite of sense desire. And true contentment is the force in the mind that is satisfied. It's okay. It's okay. The way things are right now, right here, with this body, with this agitated mind, whatever's going on, to dig down deep and reach for contentment, okayness, acceptance, whatever it is. There's incredible freedom in that, because you become, the Buddha talks about, you become, really, you become master of yourself. You become independent of what's going on around you. The temperature doesn't need to be exactly this. The sounds don't need to be exactly this. My partner doesn't need to be exactly this. I become free of that. I become out of debt. It's radical. The Buddha is saying to take the focus off of the experience and put it on to the experiencer, and do all of the care, attention, and efforting on the experiencer, not the experience. To take the attention and the emphasis and the wanting, the neediness away from the external and put it on the internal. And this is the way to freedom, because then we don't need things to be this certain way. It's completely the opposite of many of the strategies many of us have employed to be happy. It doesn't matter what's happening out here. It 100% matters what's happening in here. And contentment is something that we can, it's a muscle, it's a perception, it's a perspective, it's something that we can actively cultivate. Waking up first thing in the morning, like, here I am, here's the day, here's the breath, here's the body, here's the mind. It's like this. Good enough. Way good enough. So, specifically in our meditation, sense desire. It manifests as, it manifests in so many ways. But you sit down and you're with your meditation object, and then suddenly you're thinking about what you're going to eat for lunch, and you're thinking about, oh, I should check my email, I should check my phone, I'm going to have coffee with, Sally, and it'd be great to talk to her about her trip to Hawaii. This is all sense desire, just these distracting thoughts about what I'm going to do. It's leaning into the future. The sense desire also manifests as, reaching back to the past, like, oh, that movie last night was so great, and that conversation with Bert was amazing. And it was so cool when I saw Scott in the grocery store, all these memories. Again, sense desire. So sense desire visits us all a lot in our meditation, and it interferes with us staying contentedly satisfied, relaxed, comfortably with our meditation object. That the simple breath or metta, the four elements in the body, whatever our meditation object is, it's holy, it's complete, it's full. No need for this noise, these distracting thoughts. So the first thing that we can do, if as we get more and more serious about disengaging from sense desire in our meditation, is to look at what we're doing throughout the day. It's completely unrealistic to think that I can, spend most of my waking hours reaching out, what's the next fun thing, satisfying every whim, just having that running the show during the day, and then sit down and meditate and not have a lot of sense desire in the mind. That this is unrealistic. So we can start to look at sense desire in our lives, throughout the day, and just specific things that the Buddha says to counter this force in the mind. One is beginning to protect the mind. Keep the mind as even and as peaceful as possible throughout the day. And that might involve doing a little bit less. It might involve slowing down a little bit. It might involve incorporating into the day mindfulness bells. What I mean by that, just for myself, when I was a layperson and still working and trying to get more serious about my meditation practice, I realized, like if I just was frenetic and mindless through the day, then I would sit down and meditate at night. And honestly, it felt like I had my foot on the brake and my foot on the gas at the same time. The mind was racing and the body was exhausted. So I got instructions that were really, really helpful of just building in cues that, when I do this thing that I did several times during the day, during the work day, I just, programmed the mind to return to the breath, return to the body, return to now. The ones I picked, one of them wouldn't even work anymore because it was picking up the phone receiver. That's how long ago it was. And another one was just reaching for a doorknob. That I found that very, very helpful, because there's so many times that you open your office door, or you open the door to the bathroom. Every time I did that, and it worked. I think, mindfulness, part of mindfulness is remembering to be present. That, there's an aspect of mindfulness that is recollection. In fact, early on, the translations of that Pali word sati were recollectedness. And that is a useful translation of mindfulness, recollectedness, recollecting what's going on in the mind, what's going on in the body. And another one that, for me, that I used was just flushing the toilet, because this is something that you just do intermittently. there was something about the intermittentness. I tried this, you know, on the top of the hour, every hour, and that didn't work for me. But I mean, it's a different world. I mean, people have phones. You could put a little dinger on your phone, whatever. But that is very helpful, especially with sense restraint and guarding the senses, to build into your day these you know, just these this little wake up, you know, oh, what's going on? Because I remember when I started, I went on a residential retreat. It was incredibly powerful for me. And I mean, I felt like I was on a drug. I was just so different, just being aware and present. And the first day back to work after this residential retreat, I remember being at work, and it was so strange, all of this impact. And then I remember at the end of the day getting in my car, and that was the first mindful breath I had taken that day, you know, since my meditation in the morning. I just lost it completely. It was like I was practicing mindlessness. And that's when I realized, oh, I need something, you know, ding, 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 ding. I needed something to support mindfulness and protection of the mind. To start thinking of the mind as being like a baby, a newborn baby that you must protect, you must watch, you must hold, you must care for, or everything will just. And then we notice it. We sit down and meditate, and it's a bit of a train wreck, and that it can be because we just lost the plot in our day-to-day busy activity. So that is the first thing, to just, you know, if you're starting to get serious about sense desire, is to start to look at your day, and you can even begin to replace some maybe coarser sense exposures with more refined ones, more subtle ones. For example, you know, when you're driving, maybe don't have the radio on, you know, have it be quiet. Maybe if you tend to watch a lot of TV, maybe start to read. It's less impact on the senses. Yeah, you just make things more calm, more simple in your day-to-day life, and the exposure to sense impingement, sense impact. You know, how peaceful can we support the mind to be throughout the day? Ayya Ahimsa talks about this. She's was a German nun, one of the first, I think maybe the first Western bhikkhuni in Theravada lineage, and she passed away in 1997. A very, very powerful Dhamma teacher, and she would talk about, you know, like this idea of the baby and taking care of the mind, because she wanted to have a good meditation in the evening, you know, so she was really motivated to keep the mind as protected and as peaceful as possible. And the second thing we've touched on, and it's maybe the most important, and that is to be actively, consciously cultivating contentment. This is the opposite force in any way that you can think of. And I just want to say, I've actually drawn all of this about the practical things in meditation from a YouTube by Beth Upton on dealing with sense desire. And I would point you to that. It's wonderful. It's like 8 minutes long, and she is very encouraging. She says, "Look, I'm going to give some suggestions and some tools." And she said, "But when you're dealing with sense desire, there's a very strong encouragement she gives in this YouTube to figure out some of your own tools. Just all of us are very different. Certain phrases land very differently for each of us. We have very, very different conditioning. And sometimes ways of perceiving things, ways of conceiving of things, if it's your own, it can be the most powerful. And there's just a big encouragement to be like, oh, am I doing it right? And no, if it's working, if it's helping you, you're doing it right. Just play. Sometimes you can even keep it light. You can use a voice, use a cartoon voice, or use a joke with the mind. Yeah, sometimes, sometimes you can respond to something can be happening. It's like, oh my word, seriously, I'm still like this. I still, sometimes you can have that response in meditation and be kind of going down and discouraged and losing energy. Or at times when it's been like that for me, I'll even say, seriously, mind, that's the best you can do. Like, you can talk back to the mind. Sometimes I even have been able to go, no. And occasionally the mind's listened. No, not going there, not doing that, not now. And you can't always, and you don't want to suppress things. You don't want to be forceful and over efforting, but you can play. Strong encouragement to try your own things and be creative. So number one, look at your day and how peaceful you're keeping the mind throughout the day. Number two, actively cultivating contentment. It's like this. It's okay. I can deal with it. Good enough. And number three is if something's really, enticing, really seeming, glitzy and super what you want, look long and hard at the impermanent nature, at the fleeting nature of these pleasant sense contacts. Super helpful. It's it's really increasing the wisdom component. It's increasing insight. It's increasing non-delusion. It's increasing the realism, which the Buddha is pointing to us always. And number four that Beth outlines in this YouTube video is if there's a lot of sense desire that's related to the body, sexual desire or vanity, or just like sort of obsessive, with your own fitness and your own weight, and that if it's going on here, then it's going on, usually you're projecting it. Is the Buddha has given wonderful meditation. It's the 32 parts of the body that you just break down the body into its component parts, and it can really help to increase wisdom, increase balance, increase realism. We can dress things up and make them look like that gasoline on the water, and we're not seeing the whole picture. But then when you start thinking about, that sexy person's entrails and liver and appendix. It can skim off some of that diluted gasoline mirage, and you can see more clearly and see more balanced. And Beth Upton has a good YouTube on 32 parts of the body. And fifthly, the Buddha's instructions that Beth outlines, very helpful. Again, increasing the wisdom, increasing the insight, increasing the realism, is to look at what the Buddha tells us, to look at the gratification of this sense pleasure, of this sense contact, look at the gratification, and then look at the danger. And it's really great to look at the gratification of some of these, shiny, glitzy, oh, I can't wait for that, blah, blah, blah. Really be just incredibly honest and present. As you're anticipating this sense contact, while you're experiencing it, and after. And it just breaks things down, that they don't have as much shine and they don't have as much power over you. You start to see it more for what it is, pleasant contact. It's not fulfilling. It's not the meaning of life. It's just pleasant contact. And the danger, what is the danger, in a really great cup of coffee? I mean, what's the danger in a wonderful conversation? What's the danger in playing with my kid? What's the danger in going to this movie, going to this concert? And very simply, the danger is just that there's a lot of delusion there. The danger is that life is really, really short, and the teachings are insanely precious. And the Buddha is instructing us to be willing to give up lesser happiness in order to experience a greater happiness. That's the bottom line. It's just that we only have so much time. And the more effort and energy that we can put into purifying the mind, then we're going to be putting less energy and effort into just getting the next sense hit. It doesn't mean that we don't enjoy pleasant contact. Yeah, but that's what it is, pleasant contact. And the pleasures of a peaceful, trained mind are like, it's like comparing McDonald's with the best food in the entire world. So, yeah. So I'll end there, and very much want to open it up for questions and discussion.